Now, this is where it gets a little difficult for many. You see, in the Hebrew Bible, this letter at the end of names is a U, is expressed as a U because there is a dot. It was impressed upon me that I needed to provide some clarification concerning the name of the Messiah, specifically the vowels that relate to it if the consonants are 5 Hebrew consonants. And let me explain. The name of the Messiah in the Old Testament and the Hebrew letters are spelled Yod, He, Wa, Shin, Ayin. And let's be very clear that this is a compound name consisting of 2 parts. The first part, which I have taken the leisure to highlight in red, has a source. And as you may very well know, that source is the name Yahweh. Yod, He, Wa, He. Of course, the second letter repeats. These are all consonants. Let's be very clear. There are no vowels here as yet, but we will discuss those in the next section. Because this is a compound name here, this has the name Yahweh and then the predicative element, which in this case is salvation. Here, this becomes a statement meaning Yahweh is salvation. Of course, there are those who would question the Shura for salvation, but that's for another time, another discussion. Many of you wonder, well, what vowels go along with these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Hebrew letters? As you very well know, the Masoretic text is not to be relied because the vowels expressed there doesn't appear to reflect the name Yahweh. And just to make it easier on everyone, I'm going to supply the vowels here, and then I'll provide the English letters just for the name Yahweh for now. The first thing we must understand is that the name Yahweh in and of itself is a verbal form. If you take it as the causative, which many scholars do, take it as a causative of the third person singular of the verb of existence, which are these 3 letters with the ancient wa in the middle where the yod is in the verb. So supplying the vowels that goes along with this, the first vowel that we will put on this causative verbal form that is now in the imperfect form, in the imperfect conjugation, is the A vowel. Note, this is a short A. And I will provide this to you immediately here. So this is an A. The next letter, the He, is the termination of that first syllable. Okay, therefore, we will express this with a schwa, which can be used to express the termination or no pronunciation on that specific consonant. In our case, we will put the schwa here, which this now becomes 1 syllable and means ya. Again, this is a short A, pronounced ya. Move to the next letter. This is a wa. As you know, in the Ashkenazi pronunciation, this letter is pronounced as a va, a V sound, a vav. Of course, we know that that is not the ancient pronunciation, but it's actually a wa sound. Okay? So this, let me emphasize, is a consonant, not a vowel. Okay, these were all consonants. The vowels, the use for these letters as vowels came much later, and we're not going to discuss that right now to confuse things. We will just understand that this is clearly here of consonants. The letter that goes along with this consonant is the E. Again, because this is a verbal form, which is the causative imperfect form. Okay, so let's put that E in here in the wa to complete the name. So now this E here is a short E. The short E sound is as the E as in pet. And the A, of course, is the A as in apple. So pronouncing this entire word now makes it Yahweh. Of course, Hebrew, you read from the right to the left. So we read from the Yod, the He, the Wa, and the He. We pronounce that Yahweh. Now let's represent that with English letters, if you don't mind. Of course, English is the opposite of Hebrew. Okay, it's what you call dextrograde. So it reads from left to right. So we begin with the Yod, which is the Y. We place the A next. This is the A here. So it's the Y, then the A, then the H. Of course, this is silent, then the W, then the E, and then the H. So that gives us Yahweh. We can center this. So this is the name of the Father. And let me emphasize, this is the source of the first few letters, the first three letters of the name of Yod, He, Wa, Shin, Ayin. Let's be very clear. This is the Messiah's name. The question is now, how do we represent these 5 letters and what pronunciation would they carry? Of course, we know these are consonants. So we now, just like we did for the sacred name, we have to supply the vowels. Let me make one additional point before I move on to the name of the Messiah. These vowels will not be found in the Hebrew Bible. Remember, the Masoretic text, the Hebrew Bible, finished its editing about 700 Common Era by Masoretic scribes who were preserving the reading pronunciation of the synagogue tradition at the time. And as you know, the Jews do not pronounce the name Yahweh because of the tradition called ineffability of the name. Okay, so instead they substitute another title that's used in the scriptures with Yahweh called Adonai. And they use the vowels of that in lieu of these vowels in their vowel tradition in the Hebrew text. So if you look at a Hebrew scripture and you look at these 4 consonants, you're not going to see these vowels attached to it. These vowels are supplied by scholarship when scholars have uncovered the correct pronunciation of the name Yahweh. And of course, some people debate this, and I'm pretty sure that this is the correct vowels that goes along with these consonants for the name Yahweh. Now, the immediate question in your mind would be, if this is the name Yahweh, these vowels should have been preserved when transferred over to the compound form of the name or other names, such as Jeremiah, Isaiah, Zechariah, and many of the other names. The sad thing is, this is not what you find, and scholars have been unsure as to why this is the case. Long story short, I have studied this out and I've supplied all my research in a paper that I've posted on academia, which I encourage you to look into. However, just let me briefly describe, first of all, the correct pronunciation, which one of these English letters are to be utilized to express this name, and also explain why other assertions are incorrect transliterations of this name into the English language. Okay, so just like we did with the name Yahweh, let's begin by supplying the vowels that would go with these letters in this name. Let's begin with the Yod. So first of all, we know that this is the beginning of the name Yahweh. But the difference is it's not the entire name, it's just the compound of that name, the abbreviation of that name here in the text. You see this, of course, beginning in the book of Numbers. And importantly, we would note that the original name was actually just Hoshea, just these 4 letters, 1, 2, 3, 4, Hoshea, which had a different meaning, by the way. That was an imperative that was a causative imperative, which means which basically was expressing "oh save," Hoshe. And it became, when the youth was appended to it, a complete transformation. It's actually a phenomenon, but I'm not going to discuss that. That's a different topic in and of itself. So when the name is expressed as this, with these letters, this is the correct vowels. Let's begin with the yod. The first thing we will do is we will supply the first vowel in this name. Again, it's from the name Yahweh, so the first vowel would be an A, just like the name Yahweh. The next vowel, let's move right along. Of course, if this is from the name Yahweh, it's going to be a silent letter. That silent letter is going to be a schwa. Now, this is where it gets a little difficult for many. You see, in the Hebrew Bible, this letter at the end of names is a U. It's expressed as a U because there is a dot in the middle of it. But that U is not reflective of the name Yahweh, as you know, because the name Yahweh has a W, followed by an E, followed by the H. That reasoning has caused many individuals to actually, in fact, rather than correct this down here, actually correct the source of the name Yahweh itself and made this wa a U, and made the name something other than Yahweh. And I'm not going to get into the variations. Of course, that reason is incorrect because we know from a study of archaeology and Semitic linguistics and comparative linguistics that this is a wa, this is a W, and that is the original letter within this name. Okay, so the question is, well, how do you treat this wa in this name? Some would make it an O. Again, it's a consonant because it's from the name Yahweh. And this is the correct answer that should have been applied. This wa is the same as in the name Yahweh. However, it terminates a syllable in a similar way that the he terminates a syllable, like this. Now, this is one way where the Masoretic system never accounted for these type of nouns. So you no longer see these forms where you have a silent schwa followed by another silent schwa where two consonants are clustered together, but was broken up by the use of an anapathetic E or segol. But the point is simply this form was not strange in ancient Israel. However, the vowel sound that would be produced or pronounced as a result of pronouncing these three letters is in the same sound as the diphthong. This AH, the AHW, would have resulted in a similar sound to the Hebrew diphthong, which is the result of the AW in Hebrew. The only way for you to abbreviate the name Yahweh whenever the three letters of the name are used and not two is this. There is no other way for you to abbreviate the name Yahweh and have a correct pronunciation according to the history of these names. The next letter after the wa, again, this is a silent schwa, and this is another silent schwa. None of these schwas are vocal. That's the only way the Masoretic system can be used to reflect this ancient phenomenon called a consonantal cluster. This is the pre-epenthetic or pre-anapathetic clusters. Okay, and I would advise you, if you know any Hebrew or linguistics, you can look it up. The next letter is the shin. The shin, of course, has the vowel U, actually long U, that accompanies it. And we can insert that right underneath the shin like so. So this gives us the shura, the shu sound. By the way, in Greek, and this is just not to confuse you, but just as an additional information, in case you would want to look it up, this shin sound doesn't exist in Greek. So sometimes to reflect the sh sound in Greek, you may see two S's or double S's, double sigmas. So in Hebrew, after the U, then you have this consonant here, the ayin. Now, this is very difficult for many English or non-Semitic speakers to pronounce. And I'll explain to you why. So this is a sound that's pronounced in the throat. It's a throaty sound. Some Semitic speakers today preserve this sound in their languages. An English speaker may not even notice it. They would see it as almost indistinguishable than the vowel A because of the place of articulation of this sound. By the way, the Masoretic system would usually put something like this. I can't reflect it as well here, only because of the constraints of my particular font that I'm using or system. But usually this A here is called a patak. This would normally be shifted over here to the right just a little bit. And the reason for that is because this is not really a vowel. It's not really a true vowel in its position here. What it is doing is it's assisting you to pronounce this guttural sound a lot better because it's an ayin. So the ancient Hebrews most likely would have pronounced this name, including the ayin, like Yahshua. Yahshua. Now you notice that at the end there's that sound. So that's not an A, that's actually a consonant rather, ayin. Okay, so again, this A is to assist if you're not a native speaker and you're not sure how to pronounce this ayin sound. This A will help you to best articulate this best you can. So now you have the full pronunciation of this name as Yahshua. Now, how do you represent this in English? Is the next question. Just as in the name Yahweh, we begin with a Y, of course. Then we have the A. Then we have the H. This is silent, so we don't reflect this. So then we write the W. Again, this is silent. So we move on to the SH. And then you come to the U. And then you have the ayin, which you can represent with one of these. This font doesn't really reflect it accurately. But then you can also have this A as well in here, followed by this, just to reflect the A of the patak furtive, so you can say the pronunciation correctly, because most English speakers would not know how to pronounce that transcriptional aid in the Hebrew. Okay, the result is this transcription. There is no other way to accurately reflect the name Yahweh in these names than this pronunciation. Again, this is not pulled from thin air or from my imagination. It's a result of research from the best scholarship on this subject. What I presented here was the correct way to both pronounce and write in English and in Hebrew with the correct Hebrew vowels if you were to use the Masoretic system to reflect that writing system, and also the English transcription as best as I can with the current technology that I have, the name Yahweh and Yahshua. Again, the Messiah, I will emphasize this very, very carefully, the Messiah's name had the name Yahweh compounded in it. Seek the truth and set yourself free.